In January 2023, beside a road in Alava, in northern Spain, someone found a dead animal that nobody could name. Too big for a fox, too small for a wolf, the wrong shape for a stray dog. It took a genetic test to settle the argument, and the answer was stranger than any of the guesses. It was a golden jackal, a species that had never been recorded on the Iberian Peninsula in modern times. But the strange part is not what it was. The strange part is where its family came from. Because it was not from Spain, and nobody carried it there. And Spain was not the first surprise. It was one of the most recent in a run of them that has been going on for 40 years. Italy, first record in 1985. Austria, 1987. Germany, 1996. Then the pace changed. The Czech Republic in 2006. Switzerland in the winter of 2011, caught by camera traps that had been set out for lynx. Estonia and Latvia in 2013. Poland in 2015, a carcass found near the German border. Denmark the same year, a road casualty in central Jutland. Lithuania that year too. The Netherlands in 2016, France in 2017, Norway in 2021, and then the record stopped being merely surprising and started being difficult to explain at all. In the winter of 2021, a golden jackal was trapped in Arkhangelsk province in the Russian subarctic at 64 degrees north. Then one was killed near Sodankyla in Finland. That animal was the first golden jackal ever collected north of the Arctic Circle. It was a large male, in good condition. Its stomach contained fish bones and a game bird. Golden jackals have now been reported in 33 European countries, and for most of the 20th century, this animal was so rare that European naturalists barely wrote about it. In the 1960s, poisoning campaigns had pushed it close to disappearing from the continent entirely. So there are two questions here, and the second one is much harder than the first. How is this animal getting to places like Finland and Spain? And why did it start now? In 2024, a team led by Vislav Bogdanovic published a study that tried to answer the first question directly. They took 3 jackals found at the very edge of the expansion, one from Spain, one from Finland, one from Norway, and read their DNA to work out which population each animal had actually come from. All 3 were pure golden jackals, no dog in them, no wolf. And all 3 were first-generation arrivals, not the offspring of a local population nobody had noticed. The Spanish animal most likely originated in the western Pannonian Basin in Central Europe. In a straight line, that is about 1,650 kilometers away. The Finnish animal traced back to roughly the same region. That is about 2,500 kilometers. Now here is where I want to be careful, because this number gets reported badly. Nobody watched a jackal walk 1,600 kilometers. That figure is a genetic distance. It is the gap between where the animal died and where its DNA says its population lives. The longest journey anyone has actually recorded with a satellite collar is much smaller. In 2018, József Lansky and colleagues tracked a young female in southwestern Hungary. She covered about 224 kilometers in 12 days, crossed a motorway twice, and settled 61 kilometers north of where she was born, where she went on to breed. A collared male in Slovenia managed 178 kilometers in 14 days, crossing into Croatia. So how do you get from 200 kilometers to 1600? You do not in one lifetime. You do it as a relay. One generation pushes the edge of the range forward 100 kilometers. Their offspring push it further, the frontier creeps, and then occasionally a single restless young animal launches itself far past the front and turns up somewhere it has no business being. In Hungary, researchers actually measured that creep. Until 2007, the occupied area was growing by around 537 square kilometers a year. After 2007, it was growing by more than 5,200, roughly 10 times faster. Something changed. But before we get to what changed, we need to deal with a much more basic problem, which is that most people, including a lot of the people reporting these sightings, have no idea what this animal actually is. Start with size, because size is where the confusion begins. A European golden jackal weighs somewhere between 8 and 14 kilograms. A red fox weighs 4 to 7. A gray wolf weighs 35 to 50, so the jackal sits in a gap that European wildlife has not filled in most people's lifetimes. It has longer legs than a fox, a heavier head, and at a distance, in bad light, moving fast, it reads as a small wolf, which brings us to the naming problem. In 2015, a genomic study led by Klaus-Peter Köpfli looked at canids across Africa and Eurasia and found something nobody expected. The animals biologists had been calling golden jackals in Africa were not the same species as the ones in Europe and Asia. The African population was renamed. It is now the African golden wolf. And the two animals are not even each other's closest relatives. The Eurasian golden jackal split off from the wolf and coyote line roughly 600,000 years before the African one did. So the golden jackal is not a small wolf, and it is not a large fox. It is an older and more separate branch of the dog family than most people assume, sitting closer to wolves and coyotes than to the true jackals of southern Africa that share its name. Its behavior compounds the confusion. Jackals live in a breeding pair with their offspring, and grown pups sometimes stay on as helpers instead of leaving. They will hunt together in 2s and 3s, and they sing. A family group will chorus together, and the sound travels for kilometers. It is close enough to a wolf howl that people who hear it at night are certain about what they heard. It is also how researchers count them, play a recorded howl, wait for the answer, and log how many voices reply, which is exactly what one team did, on a scale nobody had attempted before. In 2026, a group of researchers published a study in Nature Ecology and Evolution, built from playback surveys run at 8,991 locations, in 13 countries, over 16 years. They wanted to know what actually governs where jackals live. And the strongest single factor was not climate and not food. It was wolves. Where territorial wolves are present, jackals are suppressed. This is not a new idea. Back in 2017, Miha Krofel and colleagues looked at 8 areas that wolves had recolonized, and in 7 of them, jackals declined or vanished afterwards, which explains the timing. Europe spent centuries systematically destroying its wolves. By the middle of the 20th century, huge areas of the continent had no large predator in them at all. That is an empty job, and something was always going to apply for it. But the 2026 study found something more specific than that, and it is the part I find genuinely surprising. Human presence acts as a shield. Near people, in farmland and villages and the edges of towns, wolf pressure on jackals weakens sharply. So the jackal is not simply filling the space wolves left behind. It is thriving in the one kind of landscape where wolves are least comfortable and people are most common, and we have made that landscape enormously generous. Livestock carcasses, hunting remains left in the field, slaughterhouse waste, and open rubbish. In some regions, studies have found scavenged carrion making up the majority of what jackals eat. Climate is the third piece. The limit for this animal has always been deep snow and hard cold. Warming winters shift that boundary north every decade, and models published by Sarah Kunze and Sven Klimpel project climatically suitable ground, continuing to open up across northern and western Europe through the rest of this century. Remove the predator that kept it in check. Offer it a landscape full of food and short on wolves. Then soften the winters. It is not really a mystery why it moved. The mystery is why we keep being surprised by it. Now, an animal that turns up in a country where it has never lived tends to get called an invader. Several European countries reached for exactly that word, and legally, it is wrong. Under European law, an invasive alien species is one that people moved. Deliberately or accidentally, a human being was involved. Nobody moved the golden jackal. It walked, so it is not on the European Union's list of invasive alien species. It is a native European mammal that is expanding its own range under its own power, and it is listed in Annex 5 of the Habitats Directive, the annex for species whose management can be regulated. Lithuania initially classified it as an invasive alien species anyway. That classification was later removed. What is left is a patchwork that borders on absurd. In Switzerland, the golden jackal is protected and may not be hunted. In the Netherlands, it is protected. In Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Croatia, it is a game species that can be shot. In France, it is classed as game, but hunting it is not permitted. In Austria, the rules differ between the 9 provinces. The animal, of course, does not know where the borders are. It crosses motorways. It crosses rivers 600 meters wide. A national boundary is not even an obstacle worth mentioning. So how much of a problem is this? Less than you would guess from the headlines, and more than nothing. Start with the thing people always ask. There is no credible evidence that golden jackals are dangerous to humans. They avoid us. That is not a reassurance I am offering. it is what the record shows. Livestock is a real issue, and it is genuinely regional. In southern Bulgaria, over a 5-year period in the 1980s, more than 1,000 attacks on sheep and lambs were recorded. In other regions, predation is rare, and where jackals and wolves overlap, the wolves and free-roaming dogs generally account for more losses. The diet studies show why. A review of southeastern Europe found small mammals made up just over half of what jackals eat by weight. Domestic animals, mostly as carrion rather than as kills, made up about 17%, wild deer about 11%. On wider ecological damage, the honest answer is that we do not have the evidence yet. Dutch government researchers reviewing the question concluded there is so far no scientific evidence of a negative ecological impact from golden jackals in Europe. That may change. It is not established now, and on the obvious response, shooting them, the evidence is discouraging. Work on closely related jackals in South Africa found that heavily hunted farms simply became sinks, refilled continuously by animals moving in from elsewhere, with the survivors breeding faster to compensate. What researchers actually recommend is duller and more effective. Use the same livestock protection that works against wolves, electric fencing, and guarding dogs. Cut the free food, the dumped carcasses, and the open waste, and avoid heavy shooting during the mating season, because breaking up stable family groups makes hybridization with domestic dogs more likely, not less. The 2026 modeling put a number on where this goes. Under current conditions, golden jackals could eventually occupy around 75% of Europe. That is roughly 6 times the range they hold now, with one significant caveat, and it is a nice piece of symmetry. The same study found that Europe's recovering wolf population could reduce the area suitable for jackals by up to 18%. The predator whose removal opened the door is coming back through it. There is still a great deal we do not know. Whether the single animals reaching Spain, Norway, and Finland will ever establish breeding populations there is unresolved. Reproduction above the Arctic Circle has not been confirmed, and there is, as of now, no confirmed record of a golden jackal in Britain or Ireland. Even counting them is hard. They are nocturnal, they are cryptic, they are mistaken for foxes, and most national estimates lean on hunting statistics and howling surveys, which is why one credible European figure is around 70,000 animals, and another, published a decade later, is above 150,000. No one released these animals. No one planned this. There is no conservation program behind it, and no reintroduction scheme. We removed a predator, built a landscape full of food, and warmed the winters, and something walked into the space we made, one generation at a time, while we argued about whether it was a wolf. Nobody told it to go to the Arctic Circle. It went anyway.